Welcome to the Parenting Roundabout podcast for the week of June 15th, 2020. Every week we chat about the things parents are talking about, complaining about, and obsessing about right now. I'm Terry Morrow, and I'm here with Nicole Eridix.
Hello. And
Catherine Haleko.
Hello.
This week we are complaining about some advice we find silly. We find most advice silly, don't we? And obsessing about how the pandemic might change family life. We're also taking a couple of breaks for an entertainment discussion and a recommendation roundup. Today we're talking about the differences in parenting child number 2 versus child number 1. So got to thinking about how one allows or does things differently for a second child after you got that first child under your belt. You start to get some feelings that you know what you're doing, or maybe you stop caring about certain things. Mm-hmm. In my case, I got both my children at the same time, even though they are different ages. And, each one was so unique that I'm not sure I have anything to contribute to this, but I'll listen to what you have to say and maybe it will spark some memories. Catherine, what do you feel that you did differently with your son than your daughter?
Well, for one thing, he was watching TV shows that I probably wouldn't have let the first one watch. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. When she was a baby, I remember that it's not that I wouldn't have the TV on ever around her, but we had this TV cabinet that had, doors that you could close up, those old entertainment, armoire thingies. And the TV was inside there. And sometimes I would turn on Sesame Street or whatever, but I would close the doors so you could only hear it and not
oh my gosh.
And of course that kind of thing went way far out the window by the time the second one came around.
What was the point of just hearing it?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what I was thinking, honestly.
If the parenting police were looking through the window, they wouldn't see your kid in front of a screen.
That's right. I just thought it was something to listen to while she would be playing with something else or, that kind of thing. But I also distinctly remember that when she was kind of a toddler and she would wake up super early in the morning, the only way that we could go back to sleep is if we would put the TV on and barricade her in the room with the TV and sleep on the couch.
Yes.
While she puttered around. So,
this is how standards start slipping. Parents sleep.
Exactly. So, and I mean, they always, even though one is 3 years younger, they always went to bed at the same time. Just because my younger one really didn't seem to need more sleep. He just didn't need to go to bed earlier than his sister, even though he was much younger. And then as far as now that they're older, I don't know. I'm with you, Terry. They're so different. Yeah. So there's things that I trust my older one to do or that I would allow that I don't think it'd be a good idea for the other one.
Yeah, as we say, every child is different. So do your kids complain, though, about unequal treatment? Mine don't really care, I don't think. Every now and then something will come up, and it will be why does he/she get to do that? And I just say, you guys are different. Think about all the other things that you get to do differently. And they go, okay. So
that's nice.
It's pretty easy. It's basically, Mom is throwing big concepts at me now. I'm just going to leave. I'm just going to cede the territory. Okay. It works for me.
I don't want to talk about this anymore. See,
exactly.
I mean, Nicole, your kids are pretty far apart in age, so
yeah, and then of course they're different genders, so
right.
There were some differences. I mean, I think we were probably more aware of what our son was up to than our daughter, but only because, not because he was a boy, but just because of the kind of personality he has. We were a little bit more strict, not so much stricter, but we had more definite boundaries with him, more defined boundaries with him. He had a curfew that he had to be in by. Our daughter, not so much. We just kind of I mean, she never really stayed out late anyway, and nor did her friends. So we kind of didn't really set a specific curfew. And then, like, I remember when he was younger, we still are very anti guns. And so we didn't let him have any kind of toys or games, that where he'd be like a first person participant.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So we were pretty aware of that. And then, of course, by the time Kristen comes along and, she gets a little bit older, her brother is, of course, playing all kinds of video games on the Xbox. And so she starts picking up the controller and we're like, so, we weren't, don't play that. Don't you put the controller down. Don't ever play that. But we're just like, oh my gosh, no, that's not a good idea. But, but
then what do you do? It's like, then do you kick her out of the room while he's playing, it gets harder.
That's kind of the thing. And, we were always aware of like, some of the TV shows that he was watching, whereas her, I mean, she was pretty much listening to Bart Simpson from the minute she was born. So, yeah, I mean, we were definitely more lax, but she's a different child too. She was not a risk taker like her brother tended to be. So she's, and even now in college, I mean, we were probably far more aware of what was happening with our son in school than what we were with our daughter. That's maybe not been such a good thing in retrospect.
Those 2 a.m. phone calls.
Yeah. So, yeah, it definitely has been interesting. I mean, I wouldn't say we've been way more lenient with her, but we've just had different boundaries and guidelines with her that, that my son wouldn't have. So, like, for example, my son tends to be a little bit more, he'll remember if we've asked him to do something. So we just ask him to do something and then he'll remember to do it and get it done. Whereas my daughter, it's not like that. So, so now we have this kind of thing where we're like, please have it done by 4:00 in the afternoon, So, and of course with my son, we never had that, but.
Yeah, that's my firstborn and secondborn as well.
Yeah.
Would have the same.
Yeah, totally. And then there is a huge difference between my brother and I in the way we were parented too. So I try to be aware of not repeating that.
Yeah, I still remember, being in college and being at home visiting, and my younger sister, just kind of like, I think my parents may have already been in bed, and she just would like waltz in and say, I'm going to go sleep over at so-and-so's house. And they're like, okay, whatever. And I was like, what? Right. That's so not fair. I was so mad at the injustice, even though I was like 20 years old. She didn't live at home anymore.
She should suffer like I did.
She did that.
Well, and my brother and I were 5 years apart too. So, I mean, my parents were just not tired for me because I didn't really give them too much of a hard time, but they thought they
were just more world weary.
Yeah.
I had never had that experience in my own family either because I was mostly an only child. And if I was resenting anybody, it was my older half-sister who would blow through every now and then and take everybody's attention away from me. And I would resent that. So it was sort of, I don't know if she ever had any feelings of why was I getting to do things she couldn't do. But I definitely was like, well, why are you going to her thing and not to my thing? Or why are you, letting her do that and not me? So
right.
In my house, I mean, I do wonder if, like, with my daughter, I pushed really, really hard to get her into inclusion and to get her to do all different things. And then with my son, it was more like, well, golly, self-contained special education is really comfy. And the people are so nice. And I don't have to fight. I don't know if he had been my only, if I would have fought more to get him in more ambitious situations. But since I was putting all that steam into her, it was a lot easier to say, you know what? He's got behavioral stuff. They're taking good care of him. It's fine. and not be so zealous about it. I was zealous on a few things and it didn't work out. So it's just like, the first one was my project and the second one was, we'll just let this one slide. No, I didn't. I was plenty obnoxious on his behalf also. I'm sure there are many educators who will testify to that.
I'm sure. I mean, he had different needs, so.
Exactly. Yeah. He had different needs, but also, man, did that first one take it out of me. You can only make so many enemies before you start to say, do I really need this? I probably don't need this. But then I know on, I guess this is sort of older and young. Well, this is again 2 different kids, but my son can pretty much eat anything and not gain weight. He shovels in huge amounts of food. He eats very quickly, and we never make a big deal about it because his weight is, fine or on the low end. I mean, for most of his childhood, he was underweight. So it was like a big, he's on the bottom of the curve. Right. So it's just never been an issue at all. But with my daughter, we do notice things and we do notice changes in her body and you don't want to mention it and you don't want to start a, eating disorder or unhealthy body images. But at the same time, he can eat 3 donuts and we don't blink an eye. She eats 3 donuts and we're like, you're eating 3 donuts? Really?
Yeah.
And she'll be like, he ate 3 donuts and you didn't say a word. It's like, well, but.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So
yeah, we kind of go through that too.
I think she gets some resentment on that. And it's like, I know it's bad, but bodies are different. And what one person could do, another person cannot get away with.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
I know, because my husband is one of those people who can eat anything he wants to eat, and I am not one of those people. Anyway, that's a source of, I don't know resentment necessarily, but commentary.
Yeah.
No, but the thing is that my kids, they don't notice it, and then, my son might notice a little bit and say something. It's very rare that they'll point out that we did something differently with one than the other. So whatever we did do, we didn't make it obvious enough for them.
Good job.
Good job. A pat on the back for that. So we'll leave on that positive.
Yay.
And say that's it for today's round 1. Tune in tomorrow for our entertainment-themed round 2 and later in the week to find out what we're complaining about, obsessing about, and recommending right now. We're always interested in what you have to say, so drop us a comment on our website, our Facebook page, or Twitter, where you'll find us at Roundabout Chat.